Hello, it's your friend CJ Werleman, and in this episode we present evidence suggesting that Andrew Tate is a psychological weapon for the State of Israel and its Arab ally, the United Arab Emirates. But first, please remember to like and subscribe to our show, and ensure your notifications are turned on so you never miss a single episode. Now let's get into it. Last month, Netanyahu described social media as Israel's most important weapon in its campaign to win back American and European support amid the ongoing genocide in the Palestinian territories. A campaign backed up with an eye-popping $1 billion worth of propaganda representing a 500% increase from 2025.
To fight with the weapons that apply to the battlefields in which we're engaged. And the most important ones are social media.
Because the next war will be decided based on how Israel and its allies perform online as much as offline.
This is the eighth front, the disinformation campaign.
It is actually this eighth front where our enemies believe they can actually defeat the Jewish state.
This is the kind of ingenuity and inventiveness that have always been a hallmark of the State of Israel, that have always been a characteristic of the Jewish people. I know we can do it.
A lot of this is done with money.
Invested billions and billions of dollars in the information battlefield.
Money of NGOs, vast. Money of governments, vaster.
This newly launched propaganda campaign is nicknamed the Esther Project, and it was launched last year in Washington, D.C. by a right-wing think tank known as the Heritage Foundation, which is tasked with identifying social media influencers who not only have large audiences, but are also willing to push pro-Israel propaganda in exchange for cash, with many earning as much as $7,000 per tweet, post, or reel.
I brought you this from Israel. It's a bracelet. It's to protect you from Israel.
They are the American social media stars pushing a pro-Israel agenda on the internet. And now it seems they can get a whole lot richer doing it.
I had to come to Gaza to see the truth with my own two eyes.
The Israeli government has launched a campaign to pay US influencers for positive posts to counter negative public opinion over Gaza.
Nobody is more influential on social media than Andrew Tate, certainly not in the Western world, where he has earned his title as the world's most searchable man on the internet, despite being credibly accused and indicted on rape, sex trafficking, and illegal pornography charges. He remains the ultimate manipulator of vulnerable young men, all of which is widely known. So let's focus instead on his current schemes and plots, particularly as they relate to his alleged covert influence operations for the Zionist regime. But before we delve into that, let's turn the clock back to 2022, the year that I warned his alleged conversion to Islam was nothing more than a ruse to lure vulnerable young Muslim men into his web of deceit. But having been badly exposed as a complete fraud in the West, he's now looking for a new target audience, specifically young Muslim men who have become drawn to him by his appearance of wealth, success, and hypermasculinity. In other words, Muslims are his new target market. I also said that it was likely that Andrew Tate had become a newly minted recruit for Israel's online propaganda efforts, given his behaviour borrowed from the same Zionist playbook used by Canadian psychologist Jordan Peterson, who had successfully built a large Muslim audience by pandering to Islamic sensibilities.
I have been informed by many sources and also observed online, not least because of my discussions with a variety of Muslim thinkers, supporters, and critics, that I have developed an audience in the Muslim world.
As soon as Peterson's Muslim fan base grew to a considerable size, his messaging suddenly took a noticeable change, but not in a way that pleased Muslims, but in a manner that served the interests of Israel, with his weekly sermons becoming subtly and not so subtly infused with Zionist talking points.
And all this is lovely to see in the aftermath of the extraordinary Abraham Accords, which have laid out the possibility for peace between all the people of the book in an unprecedented manner.
In praising the Abraham Accords, a deal in which the United Arab Emirates threw the Palestinians to the wolves in exchange for Israeli trade deals and American weapons and surveillance technologies, Peterson encouraged Muslims to support the Zionist occupation. Because as Peterson and Netanyahu know all too well, if they can somehow manage to build widespread support for Israel's normalization in the Muslim world, then it's effectively game over for the Palestinian people and a future Palestinian state. Thankfully, however, only the UAE, Bahrain and Morocco have committed this ultimate act of treachery, which is why Israel is now engaged in a full-court press to bring Saudi Arabia, Egypt and Jordan to the table, a feat that will forever secure Israel's settler colonial enterprise in the Middle East. But before that can happen, there needs to be an enormous shift in global public opinion. Because as it stands, everyone hates Israel and everyone stands firmly with Palestine, leaving the Zionist state with no other choice other than to throw vast amounts of money and resources at its public perception problem. Netanyahu can be heard saying, "Crank up the propaganda machine, cue the social media influencers, and get me Andrew Tate," a man Israel and/or powerful Zionists have tried to recruit on no fewer than 5 separate occasions, at least according to Andrew Tate. Well, as it turns out, the 6th attempt was the lucky charm, because just 2 weeks ago, Tate encouraged his predominantly Muslim audience to embrace the Abraham Accords, the same way his host nation, the UAE, did.
Dubai, the UAE, allows Jews into the country, and they have an embassy for Israel. So you can either be the UAE and get business done while publicly opposing the Israeli government and get things done and be a rational actor, or you can be some extreme country, which makes you a poor little shithole. If you go to Turkey, or you go to Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, any of these countries, and if you hung around there for a while, and if you knew the people I know, eventually you'd end up in conversations with people who would try and convince you to do extreme things, dangerous things. You know, it's interesting because we can even look at Islamic terror. They don't blow themselves up. They find some young guy and convince him to go blow himself up. I thought you got a bunch of virgins. Like, I'm Muslim. I'm saying if you got a bunch of virgins for blowing yourself up, surely they'd be doing it themselves. Why are they convincing someone else to do it? There is none of these divides at the top. This is the thing that people don't understand when I was talking earlier about anti-Semitism. If a Saudi billionaire parks his yacht next to an Israeli billionaire, there's no discussion of anti-Semitism. There's no problem with Palestine. They're both billionaires. This is why there's no war between those countries. There's platitudes on the TV. This is bad. But when they all meet, it's fine.
Literally none of this comes as a surprise to those who have watched Andrew Tate transform and shapeshift into a supposedly devout Muslim who sincerely cares about Palestine. He's every bit as effective as Netanyahu in selling total lies and bullshit, a skill he obtained from his father, who worked in the US military as an expert in linguistics. And then there's Tate's spiritual advisor, Miles Sonkin, also known as Iggy Semmelweis, a Zionist Jew who called on Israel to kill every Palestinian man and enslave their wives and daughters. It gets worse. Sonkin not only described himself as a wizard, but also operates as the mastermind behind Tate's pornography tutorial website, The War Room, where members pay a monthly subscription to receive advice on how to lure women into selling photos and videos of their naked bodies on OnlyFans.com.
The world's attention has been focused on the Tate brothers and their ongoing investigation in Romania.
The Matrix has attacked.
There is a mysterious figure operating in the shadows known as Iggy Semmelweis, who has been flying firmly under the radar. The enigmatic character, who refers to himself as a wizard and master of spells and shadows.
Here I will share with you my secrets.
And also claims to be the greatest hypnotist the world has ever known, as stated on his Twitter account.
You will learn the power of hypnosis.
A recent BBC investigation suggests that he is the true mastermind behind the War Room.
Who's in charge of the War Room? Iggy is at the top, yeah.
A secret all-male organization led by Andrew Tate.
The War Room is the most powerful network on the face of the planet today.
Where gray-bearded, self-styled hypnotist is accused of instructing members on how to romantically seduce, emotionally manipulate, and socially isolate women before luring them to perform on webcams, often taking all or most of the money they make.
This is the War Room of Andrew Tate.
OnlyFans happens to be owned by another Zionist Jew who uses his billion-dollar revenues to fund the Israeli lobby's operations in the United States. But, as they like to say in the CIA, coincidence takes a heck of a lot of planning. Which brings us now to the Epstein files. in which many of the world's most powerful and influential Zionists are named throughout, which again is no coincidence, given Epstein was an Israeli agent, as confirmed last week by the highest-ranking Republican on the congressional hearings into the sex traffickers' criminal operations.
These files implicate billionaires and friends of his and political donors that he's trying to protect. And Epstein also had close ties to our own intelligence agencies and Israel's intelligence agencies. That's why there's so much effort in trying to stop this. And I do believe they'll try to stop it somewhere else. And that's going to backfire on them too.
Conspicuously, Andrew Tate joined Israel's effort to stop the release of the Epstein files by slamming Epstein's victims as liars and whores, while claiming he misses his sex trafficking days in an effort to downplay the seriousness of child rape and abuse. And on the same day that Tate tweeted that, his religious advisor in Dubai, an Emirati Islamic preacher named Faris al-Hamadi, who once told Palestinians to jump in the sea, stepped forward to defend Israeli and Emirati pedophiles named in the Epstein files. It's worth repeating, coincidence takes a heck of a lot of planning.
Should we still obey the ruler if he has been in the Epstein files? أولا these files يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن جاءكم فاسق بنبأ فتبين. You read something online خلاص it's the Quran يعني استغفر الله. شو أنت مجانين? You're Muslims? You think like that? Anybody who gives you any piece of news خلاص? Oh look, he's in the Epstein files. Oh my God, so true. حق, this is حق. والله you like sheep. والله sheep for the kuffar. أقسم بالله you sheep like for the kuffar.
All of this raises more questions about the pressure President Trump placed on the Romanian government to free Andrew Tate from his house arrest in the European country, a move that allowed him to travel via private jet to Florida, where he reportedly met with Trump administration officials and potentially even the president himself in early 2025.
Today, 2 men charged with sex trafficking in Romania arrived in the state of Florida. As you can see there, the state's Republican governor, Ron DeSantis, says he doesn't want them there, but it appears the Trump administration does. In fact, they wanted them back in the United States so badly, they appeared to have used the full might of the U.S. diplomatic apparatus to spring them from Romania, where they were being held on those charges. As the Financial Times reported earlier this month, the Tate's case was first brought up by U.S. officials in a phone call with the Romanian government, then followed up by Trump's special envoy, Richard Grenell, when he met the Romanian foreign minister at the Munich Security Conference. That is very heavy diplomatic firepower on behalf of this man accused of rape and sex trafficking.
Since Andrew Tate's reported meetings with officials from the most pro-Israel U.S. administration in living memory, he has stepped up his efforts to push Zionist propaganda against Islam. He even called European Muslims the most extreme Muslims in the world, while subtweeting one of the most vicious pro-Israel accounts on Twitter. He told British Pakistani men to leave the United Kingdom by boat while inciting far-right violence against Muslims during the Southport riots, which resulted in dozens of British Muslims sustaining horrific injuries at the hands of white supremacists and Zionists, many of whom are Tate's best friends, including notorious Muslim hater Tommy Robinson, who has proven financial ties to the Israeli government, as does his best pal Andrew Tate. Israel is where Tate hosts his tech teams.
Attached to my name, it's very inconvenient for me. I have Jewish business partners. I have tech teams in Israel. I have things going on, and I get a mess from this crap too. I'm not here to beg sorry from anybody.
As we said at the top of this episode, Israel has allocated a record amount of cash and resources to shift global opinion against the Palestinian people and make you forget the horrors it continues to inflict on Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, Iran, and Sudan. Our job is to ensure our audience never forgets and never stops challenging the pernicious influence and lies of the Zionist lobby. But we can't do this without your help. Remembering that Israel pressured YouTube into demonetizing our channel 5 months ago for exposing evidence of Israeli crimes, which is why we kindly ask that you please support our program by becoming a member of this show at patreon.com/CJWerleman. We can't produce, sustain and grow the show without your help, and we offer exclusive articles, analysis, content, and other benefits to those who do. But for now, good night, good morning, wherever you are, and stay blessed.